Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, your home for all content Lord of the Rings home. Today we're going to do the second installment in a Worth the Whale series. We're going to do that on Halbarad, obviously from the thumbnail and the title. The Worth the Whale series is a series I want to start doing where I'm going to show you whether I've purchased any sort of pay-to-play characters and then whether I think that's worth it. We're going to go through the kit and do a little bit deeper dive on these characters. That way, if you are a light spender or a dolphin, you can decide for yourself whether this is a character that you want to get. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about Halbarad. He was my first G8. I'll leave a link or card above here that shows what that was about. I was very, very excited. Here is my Halbarad on the screen right now. You can see I've got all of his skills to level 4, except Rugged Medicine, which is level 5, which is his heal, and I'll talk about that when we go through the skills. He is a very, very good character. I think he's probably the best plug-and-play character in the game right now. If you think there's somebody better, let me know, but he is at least top 3 plug-and-play characters. There are 2 ways or 2 offers you can purchase for Halbarad. The first offer comes into your account 3 or 4 days after you start it. I'm not exactly sure which. It's going to be 50 shards and 20 light crystals for $20 US, okay? He unlocks at 2-star, which is 45 shards. So you get a 2-star unlock plus 5 bonus shards. And then this $20 or this 20 light crystals right here. We all know that we all need a lot of light crystals at the moment, right? It's about 200 to get somebody to gear 8. The second offer here is after you beat the hard version of Light Campaign 3.9. Then you get 50 shards of Halbarad, 50 shards of Miri, and 70 light crystals. That's going to run you $55 US though, which is a little, not a little bit, it's a lot more. So with the 50 shards you get from the first offer and 50 shards you get from the second offer, that's 100 total. That means you can get Halbarad to 3 stars and then you can continue to farm him in the challenge store, right? I purchased both of these. I would say I don't regret either of these purchases, and now we're going to go into exactly why. Let's go to his skills. I'm on Lord of the Ring LOTR.gg, which is a great site run by some community members, and they've got all this information, so check that out if you ever need to look stuff up. First things first, he is a light human and tank, so he fits into 3 different challenges, and he's going to help you out in all 3 of those challenges. So that is worthwhile in and of itself. I would recommend you replace Eothane with him when you unlock him. That's what I did. He kind of takes the place of Eothane. I actually found that I was no longer tanking with Eothane, but just using Eothane for his counterattacks and his expose on basic, but maybe you could find somebody else to replace him with, maybe a better damage dealer or whatnot. Let's talk about his stats. Halbarad has the most health in the game. He even has more base health than Brute and Ironhide. This is, of course, before they factor the passives in, which Ironhide and Brute get like plus 15 or 10 or 15% health or something like that. He also has a passive that increases his max health, so I think the big characters might beat him out after the passives, but on base stats alone, he has the highest max health in the game. His speed is all right. One thing is he's got pretty low armor, and I think that's because his health pool is so high. He kind of just is meant to be a sponge and absorb all of these hits. He's a ranger and a leader for the Rangers. We're going to talk about that at the end when we go through the skills and kind of where I think this squad might be going and whether it's viable right now. But let's get into the skills. Crushing Blows is basic, does some amount of damage, a decent amount of damage, and inflicts Weak-Minded for 2 turns, which reduces resistance by 50%. If you have a tank character that is not applying some sort of debuff on its basic, it's just not in the top realm of tank characters in this game at the moment. I think this is worth getting up to level 4. That's why I have it on my character. Let's go down to Special 1. This is the heal, okay? So he's granting defensive, and he's healing for a good chunk. This top row here is the max, when you max it out, what it all is. For this to really turn on, you need it to get to level 5. And so I think a lot of people feel underwhelmed when they initially get Halbarad because the heal isn't as good as they thought it was. They've been told, oh my god, he's an amazing tank and healer. but it's not until level 5 that he really starts to shine. At level 5, my Halbarad heals somewhere between 3 to 4,000. Okay, if that Halbarad stays alive in, let's say, Arena and can get off 2 or 3 heals, that's massive sustain across all of the team, or most of the team, and that's going to make a huge difference, not only in PvP, but in PvE game modes as well, obviously. This is a big deal. This is one of the reasons why he's such a good plug-and-play character, because there's no restrictions or synergies on this particular skill. His tanking skill is this third one here, Northern Storm. So he actually hits pretty hard with this. He gains taunt and deadly for 2 turns. Let me tell you why the deadly is important. A lot of the arena meta right now has Ironhide, right? His AoE Dispel, Ironhide's AoE Dispel, can take away his taunt. If he didn't have deadly, it would be guaranteed to take away his taunt. So what happens is Halbarad would taunt before Ironhide goes, and then the first move, Ironhide's would dispel it with his AoE Dispel. With the deadly in place, now it's just a 50-50 chance as to whether your taunt's going to be cleared or not. And then deadly is pretty good for just boosting damage and output. And then, you know, if Miri's a part of the team as well, he grants her some buffs as well. I don't think that's as important, maybe for the Ranger squad as a whole, but I think the taunt is just very good. And I prefer to have a tank that has taunt as opposed to provoke. I think there are characters that can get through provokes pretty easily, and so having a taunt where they just have that taunt the entire time, unless there's a dispel of some sort, I think is a lot more valuable in a tank. Okay. Now let's get to the last 2 skills here, the passive and the leadership ability. These are going to be more to do with the Ranger squad themselves. But before we get into that, I just want to say that even with the skills that we just went through, this is why I think he's one of the best plug-and-play characters. And even with just that, I think he's probably worth the whale. I actually think he's worth going for first in the challenge token store before Bolg even, right? I think you should focus on Halbarad before you focus on getting Bolg because he's such a good character. His passive. This is a Ranger-specific passive, plus 7% max health. So this is already going to boost his massive max health, but it's also going to help the squishier members of the Ranger squad get a little bit more, passive protection in that way. And then when a Ranger ally gains stealth, grant Eagle Eye, which means that your attack can't be blocked or missed. And then there's some more passive healing here where they're healing 4% of that character's max health, of Halbarad's max health. And he's got such a massive health pool that this is going to be big for squishier characters, right? Okay. Let's look. It's really not until level 6 that this becomes very, very important and starts to turn on in sort of a Ranger team synergy capacity. There's a little fly buzzing around me right now, so sorry. It's a little distracting. It keeps trying to go right into my mouth. Okay. Leadership for Halbarad. Gaining focus, always good for landing debuffs, although to me it doesn't seem like the Ranger squad is super debuff heavy, like the Mortar squad is. Again, there's some Eagle Eye synergy here, so when a Ranger squad member receives Eagle Eye, they're going to get advantage, which is basically, it's a guaranteed crit on the next attack. This is similar to what Bolg has in his leadership. And then grant 10% turn meter to that squad member, which is massive, right? Then you can start a turn meter train going and sort of snowball. Right now, currently, right, the way that he gives out Eagle Eye is when a Ranger member goes under stealth. The current Ranger members are Halbarad, Miri, Elrohir, and Strider. When Eladin comes out, I'm pretty sure he's also going to get the Ranger tag, but I haven't seen his kit, but he's a tank, so I imagine that he's going to not have stealth. The way Miri gets stealth is on her special 1, and the way Elrohir gets stealth is, I believe, yes, on his special 2. If he has a boon, he gains stealth. So they would go under stealth. Halbarad would then grant them Eagle Eye, which would heal them, give them advantage, and give them plus 10% turn meter, right? So that's where this becomes really powerful, and you can see a lot of the potential here. The thing is, I still feel like there's a few pieces missing from the Ranger puzzle here. Strider's technically a Ranger. He doesn't really do stealth, and he doesn't, I mean, he does for hobbits on his leadership ability, but otherwise, no. And he doesn't, I don't think he has any Eagle Eye at all in his kit. So he feels a little bit out of place in the Ranger squad in terms of Halbarad being a leader. I don't know if they're going to add another Ranger leader. Doesn't really make sense thematically, but if they did, even Halbarad's passive is just very, very good, right? But let's say they're going to add another Ranger, somebody from the Grey Company or something like that. They can make somebody up, like Miri's already sort of made up. I think that person either has to be able to offer more stealth to the team or offer another way to grant Eagle Eye to the team. Right now, the Rangers are not that good because they're sort of missing that piece. They're still too squishy, and they don't get their turn meter train rolling enough and their damage train rolling enough for it to really, steamroll everything in Arena. So that's his skills. I'm just going to tell you right now, I think that he is worth the whale. He, there's nothing else to say. He's one of the best characters in the game. He's definitely worth it if you're going to spend money. I think the $20 to get him unlocked is definitely worth it. If you're really going to whale, this is probably worth it as well. Not only for the shards, which means you don't have to spend any fewer challenge tokens on him, but also for these 70 light crystals here. Next one I'm probably going to do is either on Eladin or Bolg, but let me know if you want me to do any other type of content like this, and thanks for watching.